Okay, I believe we are live here with Quantum Leap. And Cory, welcome. Just wanted to do a quick check-in with you to see if you could just introduce yourself and tell us what you do.
Hey everyone, Cory and I here. I am a visionary business coach with Take Wing Coaching. So that means I help purpose-driven entrepreneurs develop a business that supports their lifestyle.
Okay, beautiful. Today, I just wanted to, my name is David Kirsten. I'm a videographer and also emerging coach, I would say. So I do a few different things. And today, if you're just tuning into Quantum Leap, I actually want to just go over some big picture stuff with regard to Cory and I's coaching programs. We actually have separate programs. Mine is a new program called Rising Star, and I'll share some more of the details. I just want to talk some big picture stuff, and then also showcase some things on Lyft, which Cory's developed. Cory and Gail Knott have developed some great modules on Lyft. One of them is called Flight Plan, and it's really about how to get your business up and going. So maybe you're starting a new business, maybe you want to supercharge a new business or an existing business. And so we're going to take a look at that. But first, I wanted to get into some kind of big picture items with you, Cory. Just we can call this kind of a rapid fire. I just, in looking back on when I joined BNI and when I was starting to take my kind of side business, a videography business, and make it into a full scale business. And I use a lot of the tools that you offer to do that. And what really kind of generated liftoff for me initially was clarity on four key things initially. So really some big picture things called purpose, vision, something you call a 360 vision, and core values, clarity on those things. And that really provided the platform for me to get lift off of my business. If you don't mind just telling us a little bit about those things, just kind of a quick crib sheet. And I know we've been over some of these things before, but this season on Quantum Leap, I actually want it to be kind of a full undergraduate course, so to speak, on how to do this stuff. And we're not necessarily kind of giving away everything, but really just how to get started. And if you want more resources, go to Lyft, go subscribe to Rising Star to find out more. But I'm trying to give kind of a preview of some of these key items.
Yeah, I see this as a foundational to a business plan for somebody who really, I think, feels like there's a purpose to their business. There's something that they want to create for change in their community, their world, whatever it is, that there's a bigger picture that their business fits into. Yeah, some people are just happy to create something, and that's fine. But when there's something bigger, we want to put a focus on that. And the problem with putting the focus on it is that if we keep trying to focus on it in our own heads, we lose track. We have all these ideas, and sometimes there's the pitfalls and the things that get in the way. In fact, Gail just sent me a new graphic that I'm going to mock up a little bit for how I do the vision part. But once we get this stuff down on paper and we really firm it up and we say, this is my purpose, these are the core values, and they're written out, they are complete. Well, I don't necessarily say complete, because they're always always growing and being fine-tuned. And this is my vision. This is what it's going to be in 3 to 5 years, and not just the business, but the business and how it fits into our lives and into the lives of others, including our customers and our clients and our employees and staff and all the people around them as well. So as that vision expands, then we have the focus down on paper, and it starts to manifest as reality. And then our business becomes easier to say, okay, this is the direction I need to go, and I'm going to stick to in order to fulfill this purpose and achieve this vision, live my core values, and so on. And I have a line that I love from an old movie, as a kid's movie. The point, but I like it where the character comes out and he says, a point in every direction is the same as no point at all. And so many of the people that I work with are going every direction, and I do the same thing. I know so many other people who do that. And so we just gotta, point in a direction and go that direction, fine tune, make some changes, but really with the focus on the vision and the purpose.
I think some of the best advice you give me, and you actually work with a lot of other even business coaches, even though you are a business coach or do various things around coaching, is you actually need to find your niche. You can't be kind of a business coach who's like all things to all people, because then, like you're saying, you're a point in all these directions, you have no direction. Could you just tell me a little bit about, say, there's business coaches out there, just as an anecdote, what's a niche for a business coach, or what would you kind of say is your niche as a business coach, or what do you see as my niche as a business coach? And I know I'm still kind of on that path of
Figuring it out.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that, once you have a niche, and a niche comes from those core values, from the purpose, who aligns with that. It's the people who fit into that. I work really well with creatives. I work well with other coaches. I do a lot of work on the why as well. And I happen to believe that the why and the vision, the core values, all those pieces, the deeper we have it as a coach, the more we can help our own clients achieve transformation, right? So this is transformational work. And if we want them to have transformation, I think, to be a way shower, we've got to have gone that way. And if you try to be something for everyone, it's difficult to show them the way because we can't understand what they are. So there's different people. Some people focus on the money of the business, which is wonderful because it's so important. Some people focus on bigger businesses, executives, and organizational teams. Some business coaches like me, I focus more on the solopreneurs, creatives, coaches, other consultants, and maybe people with a little bit of ADHD and other things going on inside their head that they may feel like it's holding them back, or others have told them throughout their life that it's just not possible to do what they want to do, and I disagree with that. So yeah, I think there's a niche around the psychographics, the thinking. There's the demographics. Where are those people going to be, where are your clients going to be, and then focus on that.
Yeah, and just as an example, I pulled it up on the screen here. Hopefully people can see it. I'll try to zoom in a little bit. But this is what you call your strategic business flight plan. And I think if people are just joining Lyft for the first time, this is an amazing place to start, because you actually have all this big picture work laid out here kind of at low cost. So you have a module on your why, and I actually have kind of an old picture in here. But you have a video, Gail, there's a video of Gail on your why, and the worksheets here on how to delineate your why, your vision, your ideal day. So it's all here, how to get started. I've actually been through this module, I think 3 separate times, as my business grows. And I like to do this work actually every really year, maybe even a little bit more often than that. Cause I find as we learn more about our business, some of these things change, or our core values, or what we want to actually focus on, actually changes. So I don't know if you have any comments on this module.
Yeah, I think that things do change, especially where you're at, David, and figuring out which direction am I going to go? What does this business really mean? Core values, they're yours. They're also the core values of the business. So sometimes what we bring to the table is us and the business, but there might be more to it. There may be other people involved. There may be some part of you that comes out in the business context that doesn't necessarily come out in other parts of your life. Some things that, like Gail and I have adventure, I think something in our core values. Well, I figure it's more about exploration. We like to kind of go look at things and see things, and see that in people as an exploration of places and of the mind. And so we start to shape our core values according to our thinking as we go along. So yeah, it's something in the vision, I believe, ought to be reviewed. Well, not only reviewed every week, but revised every year, right? Added to, expanded, and so we make that easy. We put that in there, and then we do suggest that people share on Lyft to get feedback, and
Great.
Accolades. Accolades are always good too.
Yeah, yeah, you do gotta. I love that you and Gail always celebrate your wins, and you even make business fun in a lot of ways. You do your bourbon, what do you call
Our Bourbon and
cocktail
Business
bourbon and
podcast. Yeah.
business. Yeah. So um I just as another example, I kind of, in the coaching that we've done together, I based a lot of the Rising Star on really what kind of helped make me successful with finding out these things. And I drew from a number of different programs. And, this Rising Star program is really a 6-month professional coaching program designed to generate a quantum leap in results. And I have, we went over this briefly last time. I thought we'd just look at a few of the modules and look at some of the overlap with Lyft. But really, it's about setting up your quantum leap. And I got this from you. I think that, and it's a little bit different language. This quantum leap can be a bit of a marketing term in some point, in that, what would be a big leap for your business? And I mean, we named this whole show after this, and you're very familiar with kind of my concept for quantum leap. But what do you see out there in terms of a quantum leap for somebody's business? And I know when they first come to you, they just want to make their business work. But I really see you actually have to set a goal big enough that you get excited about it. If you kind of plan to just like, I just want to survive, you're not going to survive. You're going to fail. So if you don't have it, do you happen to have any comments on kind of goal setting, or this concept of quantum leap?
Yeah, I agree. And I think the vision, the bigger the vision, the more, so it all starts for me, it starts with the vision of getting to that bigger vision to get over those obstacles. And, there are some people who are pretty happy just creating what they create. I'm not saying just survival, but, enough to feel like they're doing what they want to do. And then there's ways to go about growing your business. And I think some of the things that the quantum leap means isn't just the growth in the business, it can be the growth of the person in terms of how they want to grow the business. And one thing is public speaking, right? Not just becoming a public speaker, but standing out as a speaker. And not so much to be paid as a speaker, though there's nothing wrong with that, but as a way to grow your image, to be a leader in your industry, to stand out. And I apologize. I need a moment here.
Yeah, no problem. While you're getting set up there, Cory, I'll just say, we're actually going to be going over each of these modules, the content and concepts in episodes of Quantum Leap. So we're presenting Cory and I twice a month, and about that. And I have 11 modules to my Rising Star program that we're going to be going over individually as separate kind of episodes of Quantum Leap. Well, the first one's actually called Quantum Leap, and that's what is this concept of Quantum Leap, and we're going to talk about that more next time that Cory and I present. And really, this is a fascinating concept, and of course, I base this whole show on that. I kind of base my whole business on it, and it actually comes from quantum physics. And there's this book called U Squared, which is a powerful book. If you want a fascinating read, pick up U Squared. I don't know, Cory, if I should buy you a copy of that for
Sure.
Christmas. It's good to have a few copies lying around, but we'll look at that in more detail next week. But just quickly running through these modules, we only have about 7 more minutes. This is the crux of what I saw. If you want to be successful, this is kind of where you want to focus. So first, you want to determine kind of what your quantum leap is. And I think people need some initial coaching on this, about just getting focused. I don't know. I know when you start working with somebody, Cory, what they think they want and what they actually want probably changes quite a bit in those first couple coaching sessions. I don't know if you have any thoughts there on that, just initial sessions with somebody on their quantum leap. For example, they may not even think that a quantum leap is possible until you start kind of reframing their idea for their business.
Yeah, I agree. If we work on the why, which I love to do with clients, but it's not always the case. I think that that definitely can have a tremendous effect on deciding what it is they really want to do. For somebody who's in a more established business that says this is the way I'm going, maybe the why isn't as important or it's a little more simplistic. But we've had amazing effects with that, and that gives people a deeper statement of belief and an idea of where they want to go, right? And then we develop the vision around that and all those other things that go with it. Um,
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, good. I think then there's also some divisions here, purpose. There's like, what's your purpose in life? But then
Right.
what's the purpose of your business? So you really have two different things. And
Hmm.
how do you reconcile that? And again, this kind of changes over time. And Corey is an amazing coach at helping figure that out. I think I haven't worked with too many coaches, but I've had great success when working with Corey on that. Goal setting. So there's purpose and goals. So there's goal setting for life. There's goal setting for your business. Actual John Maxwell, they actually believe in setting also something else called performance goals, which you mentioned public speaking. So say, okay, to get my business to here, I actually need to become a great public speaker,
Right.
for example. Or in my case, I knew I got to become a great video editor. I wanted to do motion graphic stuff. So helping people kind of sort through all this out. And I do think there's huge benefits for writing it down and working with somebody who has experience in doing this on their own, and or a coach such as yourself. Core values. So again, there's all our core values, then there's our core values of a business. And I think this is some very unique work. I don't know if you have any thoughts on this concept of daily practice. I just find one of the pieces that makes this whole thing work is setting up a daily process for success. What do you
Yeah.
do every day that's going to help you succeed?
Yeah. I have something that I developed, and I think the daily practice is probably something that can be really tough for people because they get busy. And where do I fit this in? How do I do this every day? You saw something, we had a little bit of the ideal day, which kind of gets to that. But I think that this is an important thing. I, as a coach, I don't really work so much on this, so I do encourage daily accountability. And I have a thing that I call my executive briefing, which is intended to be looked at daily and covers a lot of these things in terms of like just sort of like, okay, who am I and what am I doing today? And I have to admit that I have not been assiduous in following it myself. However, as I develop it, it just takes it off the table and puts me back in the frame. Of course, this is what I'm accomplishing today, and I think that's a great thing for you to focus on, and to be rising star. That's definitely a big part of it.
Yeah, I know Bob Art's a guest who we've had on before, does a lot of work with the calendar, how you schedule certain things. So there's different techniques that you can develop here on how to set up a daily practice. And I actually think it takes a while to set up a daily practice that works for you. Say you're coming out of a corporate job or something else where you're doing something totally different and you come into a new field, to actually get a daily practice that works. I think takes some time. But once you do that, that's really sets up a huge platform for success. And I know we have just a couple minutes left. I'll just say, review this concept of self image. A lot of people probably won't even know what that is, but that is something hugely influential if you start doing work on self image. And again, we have a self image, kind of our exterior self image that everybody knows from, our just our headshot or whatever. But there's actually a concept of ourself that we hold inside that actually requires the most work. And that's really revolutionary concept when this
Hmm.
book, Psycho Cybernetics, I'm sure we've talked about that book before. When that came out, it really revolutionized the whole self-help industry. This concept of definite plan, you and Gail have something, you really need a business plan to make your business work. It can't just work if you just kind of wing it. Do you have any quick thoughts on that business plan or how to get started there?
Yeah, I mean, it's what we talked about, but then adding in, what are my goals? And you talk about goals, and I think a lot of people don't really like to set goals and then follow goals and so on. But for us, it comes down to, by putting together an action plan, we can start to see what it's going to take to accomplish this thing. And that's whether it's the full business or some new business endeavor. It's one of the things that I enjoy doing. It's not so much about the execution, though that's very important. It's also really about creating. If once we, a lot of us have ideas in our heads, but we don't see all the barriers. We don't see the steps that it's necessary to get there. And so having a definite plan gives us a very good idea of what it's going to take to get there. And then we can engage our willingness to actually do it.
Yeah, this is another thing that I just don't think, see how you come up with this without a business coach, or you can, but it takes you way longer. And just the last four modules, I'll just quickly run through them. This concept of terror barrier, and I'm sure you and Gail have been through this. And this is another thing that I don't see how you surmount that without a coach or some people on your team, that when you move in this other direction that's totally new, you hit this thing called the terror barrier where you feel extremely uncomfortable. I don't know if you have any experience with that you want to share. I know we're going to go a couple minutes over before we get to Robin, but
Yeah, I've done a great deal of personal development, and so that's why I'm a coach. And it's always getting out of your comfort zone. And I don't, I don't know much about the barrier, but it's, to me, it's the patterns. It's the patterns that hold us back. Our minds exist to keep us safe, and anything that could be unsafe to the mind, and it's surprising what that might be, would be where the terror comes in, right? And especially on some really big things.
great. And I'll just say attitude, how to generate the attitude for success. A lot of people I know, when they come to you, or really, um, or if they're stuck, they're in a negative place. How do you turn that from a negative polarity to a positive polarity? And a lot of that's daily practice. Once you start putting all these pieces together, you really can take a 180-degree turn from negative to positive, and that's what gets you lift off. This, what I call, be the one. What makes you unique at what you do? What is the one thing that is going to propel your business based on kind of your why? And so this is another key thing that you do. A lot of people work with people on. And then lastly, the leader shift. This is really just the introduction to really becoming a leader in your field. So do you have any closing comments before we get to Rob and Cory on these concepts? Otherwise, we're going to wrap up this first segment of Quantum Leap. Oh, you're muted. Are you there, Cory?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. This mute. Yeah, no, I think it's a great list of things, and I always encourage people to work with multiple coaches, look at different programs each year, because having a different context and a framework just makes so much sense. One of the things I do hope is that, David bringing this to the Lyft platform, then you can take advantage of so many different things, right? So do a little bit of the flight planning every year, do the Rising Star, more regularly, get that personal coaching on that, and that can be very powerful.
Great. And I will put the links to Lyft in the comments. And Rising Star is actually only available by referral now through our network. So if you are interested and me or Cory or somebody else in our networks, do reach out. And thanks for joining us on this segment of Quantum Leap. Next week, we're going to dive more into the concept of Quantum Leap and really drill down a little bit about that concept and some of the content in U Squared and other sources. So stay tuned. We're going to bring up the second segment of Quantum Leap with Robin Patton, wealth manager, momentarily. Thank you.